Welcome to the Third Eye Show, which brings you ancient wisdom as well as cutting-edge investigations into the mysteries of the universe. The Third Eye Show celebrates our diversity, like the unique beauty of each individual wave, and our oneness, like the magnificent ocean from which each wave emerges. We are all one in spirit as we live on this earth plane. The third eye is said to be able to see into the spiritual and psychic realms. At a time when our lives, our country, and our planet are undergoing intense transformations, we will explore topics that will fascinate, enlighten, and empower. Join us as we witness the thrilling ways spirit manifests in our daily lives and the varied paths we choose to create heaven here on our earth. The Third Eye Show is created and offered in love and light.
Today's Third Eye Show was taped at the Fun and Fabulous Intuitive Showcase and Holistic Health Expo held in Knoxville, Tennessee in August 2008. The showcase was the creation of Knoxville's own John Hodge of Soul 411 fame. We caught up with John after the showcase to find out how he became interested in metaphysics and what he hopes to accomplish with Think Again Radio and Soul 411. Then we peeked into Lisa Bonnice's Shapeshifter seminar, in which she outlined her unique approach to weight and weight management with the warmth and humor that characterize her teaching technique. Next, we sat down with author Elizabeth Hill, who, with her friend, medium Glenna Dietrich, created the Interview with the Universe, a 3-CD set that asks higher energies all the important questions of our time. And last but not least, the Third Eye's own Lucia Read presented an introduction to psychic development packed with ideas you won't want to miss. So let's go to Tennessee on today's Third Eye Show. Thanks so much for joining us on the Third Eye Show, John.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Would you tell us a little bit about Soul 411 and Think Again Radio?
Think Again Radio started first, so I'll mention that first. It started about, I had some radio experience. I'd done some golf talk radio, then some other sports talk radio, and feel like I had a natural flow for radio, and so I wanted to, and then I started another show called Cherries, which was more of a local calendar and directory type show, and it just wasn't, there was no fulfillment there for me, so I wanted to go ahead and try something else, and that's where Think Again Radio came along. I thought there was a lot of people out there that had a voice, that had a message, that had a story. Maybe I didn't agree with all of them, but I wanted to give them a chance to air it, and so that's how Think Again started. And it started, I had UFO conspiracies, alien abductions, and there was a little bit of everything off the board, and it was just a lot of fun. And then as I grew to interview speakers, authors, intuitives in the metaphysical realm, that's where Soul 411 came about. I feel like there was a lot of people that I interviewed on Think Again Radio that had a lot of great gifts and a lot to offer mankind, but they didn't have a way to, people had a great message but didn't know, reach the masses. I felt like there were people that didn't how to reach the people. So I kind of took myself, I saw myself as a promoter and wanted to take that role as promoting some of these great, talented, gifted people, so the people around the country, around the world would have a way to find these gifted, talented people.
John, what is the truth movement that you mentioned on the website?
Well, you know, that's something that came about with an intuitive friend of mine here from East Tennessee. We talked about it over the last few years, and we talk about people taking people's word for things. Like you grew up, especially in the South, we grew up respecting our parents, respecting our preacher, respecting our doctor's opinions, but now the truth movement is people are taking their own responsibility for their religious beliefs and their medical beliefs. 20 years ago, you wouldn't question what your doctor said, you would just do what he said. Chiropractors came along 30 years ago. They were viewed as witchcraft or voodoo back in the day, maybe, but you would not say, people are just taking more responsibility for their spiritual growth now than they were 20 years ago, and that's basically in a nutshell what the truth movement is to me. And I have an article on my website if you'd like to read more about that. So.
Great. What are the goals? What do you want to accomplish with Think Again Radio and Soul 411?
Basically, as I said earlier, I want to enlighten people. I know there's a need for growth out there spiritually, and I think that people don't know where to look, so I want to be a place where people can come and find answers, or at least have a reference for finding answers and finding information. So that's my goal, is to reach more people, to let people have that enlightenment that I've had, and again, to be able to find these talented people and in search for answers. They want people, I think there's a strong, right now, a search for answers, and people don't know where to look, and I want to be part of that.
It's wonderful. Can I ask, I know that you are a golf nut, and I know you enjoy comedy very much, have a great sense of humor, and enjoy the company of comedians, so I'm curious to know how a golf and comedy guy first got interested at all in these kinds of subjects.
Well, it all started when my first reading in 1982, I guess, and through the 80s I had other agendas, and so that may have gone through the back burner, but golf, not so much. The golf connection really for this now is I produced a celebrity golf tournament, much like the Expo a couple of years ago. It involved getting comedians to come in from all around the country and plan a weekend with them, where we did a comedy night, had a poker tournament afterwards, then had a golf tournament the next day. So that was kind of gathered my thirst for producing an event. So once I had, after the golf tournament, then came Think Again. So the natural progression was, after all these people, it was time to produce an event. And Knoxville, specifically, hasn't had any kind of psychic fair, any type of event like that in at least 10 or 12 years. So I thought, this is my hometown, why not break it in my hometown? And so far so good. It's a fairly successful weekend.
Would you tell us a little bit about this expo?
Yeah, it again is the same theme of trying to enlighten people. I know there's a lot of people in the South, in the heart of the Bible Belt where we are, that are closeted when it comes to expressing their beliefs. They might go to church every Sunday, but they might not want to tell their preacher that they've seen a psychic, or have gone to a massage therapist, or whatever. It's like it really is coming out of the closet, so to speak, as far as bringing people out. And that's what was my main goal, was to have people say it's okay to come out and look for answers outside. You know, we talked about the doctor earlier. You know, doctors are now looking into Eastern medicine, and they're studying those types of things. So it was all about enlightening in an area that was dark, let's say. Let's call Knoxville a dark area, because there hasn't been a lot of growth, and the metaphysical community has stayed within itself. And my goal for this was to make it more of a mainstream social event, where it was open to people that previously wouldn't say they had been to the event. And I've talked to several people who this was a first time event for them, first time they've ever had a psychic reading. So I'm very excited about that.
So can you tell us about the feedback from this event? How was it?
But feedback's been very good. A lot of people saying, when's the next one going to be? So that's all I can take for right now. I'll accept that, and we'll grow and learn from this one.
That's great. Now, your clients, the psychics who you represent, how do you vet them? How do people know when they come to you or to Soul 411 that they're going to encounter people who are legitimate and really talented?
It's very important, and it's a great question, because I want people to understand that, and there's going to be a growth process and a learning process where people come and go from that. And I use myself and colleagues of mine to get readings and to find out what the goals of these practitioners are. If they have a spiritual truth, then they're going to be a part of Soul 111. If it's someone who's doing it for the wrong reasons, and we know who those are sometimes, Cleo gave the spiritual intuitives a bad name back in the day. So there's then it gets shut down for a couple of years. So people don't know who to trust. There's a lot of people who would love to have a good quality psychic reading, someone who's going to help them along their path, not just try to get dollars out of them. And so that's the main goal of Soul 411, is to keep that pure, and intention pure. So hopefully we'll do a good job of that. And if anyone ever has a bad experience, I certainly want to be the first to know about it.
So where do you think you're going with this? Are there any more expos in mind?
Well,
I know this is the day after.
This is a great time to ask that question, Lucia, because it is the Monday morning after, and I just have no regrets about it, other than, as I stated earlier, having more time to socialize with the attendees. But I think I have got to do another one. As I said, some attendees said, "When are you going to do another one?" And so as soon as possible. And I'll let your audience know, let you know as soon as possible. But I really think that there are other areas that would benefit from this type of event, and I want to be there for them.
Sounds great. We'll look forward to hearing more from you, John. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much, Lucia, and thanks to all your listeners and people who are helping spread the growth message out there.
Thank you.
Out front here. I am the author of a book called Shape-Shifting, Reclaiming Your Perfect Body. This stresses out the word your, which means that we're not trying to look like a model, we're not trying to look like a centerfold, we're not trying to look like our skinny best friend. We're trying to look like our healthiest body, the body that our DNA holds in its memory, our most authentic expression of who we can be. And so that's why, again, the your. So that's what we're working with today. And that's why I'm able to come up here not looking like a Barbie doll and feel confident that I can talk to people about this process. My story began, many, many years ago. I just started gaining weight, and it wouldn't go away. And I did the dieting, I did the exercising, I did the stuff that we all do, and it just wouldn't work. And I know a lot of people have the exact same problem. Why won't the diet work for me? Why won't the exercise work? And I'd already been researching body-mind. I've worked in the alternative medicine field as a researcher and as a writer for most of my adult life. And I've developed a very strong understanding of how the body-mind works. So I thought, well, if I can't lose this weight, I might as well go ahead and take a look and see who's researched this, who's looked into this, who has my answers for me. And I discovered no one did. So since I am a writer and I am a researcher, I realized, well, I have to write the book myself. So in the process of researching how does this work, how can I affect change in my own life, I wrote this book and lost 50 pounds in the process. And I learned in this process that it really has very little to do with how much I ate. It had more to do with what I was eating and why. So I learned also, in addition to that, as I mentioned, I was into the whole body-mind thing, but I left out the spirit because I was raised with a pretty dysfunctional Catholic background. Nothing against the Catholic Church per se. My particular Catholic upbringing was pretty screwy. So it left me kind of hating God. so I deliberately left the whole spirit out of that out of that set. But once I started realizing that there's more to spirituality and religion than giving your life over to some grouchy old fart in the sky who hates me because I'm a girl, you know. So once I got to move past that and began using body, mind, spirit, the weight just dropped off naturally. I began taking better care of myself naturally. I paid more attention to, am I really living my true life? Am I doing what I came here to do? At the time, I had a fantastic job. It was very prestigious. I made decent money. I had everything that we're supposed to want. But I was just miserable. I hated my life. And there came the pounds. So as I began really looking into what is it that I'm doing, why am I so miserable? Why am I so unhappy? And that job sort of ended up going away from my life. And so now this is what I do for a living. I'm so much happier. I'm so much healthier. I still got my own issues. I'm a work in progress. And that's something that we all have to remember, is that we are all a work in progress. Until the day we exit, we are constantly working toward a healthier state. And one of my favorite sayings that you'll read in the book, because you're all going to buy the book, right? One of my favorite sayings is that we are always in the best mindset that, or we're always in the best physical condition that our mindset allows. So it really does kind of start up here, and it filters out the rest of the way. Now, I've learned that the most difficult thing about shape-shifting, and I call it that because that's actually what we are doing. We're shifting the shapes of our bodies into a healthier form. The most difficult part about it is at the beginning, is believing that you really can do this. I mean, you guys are all new agey kind of people. You've read the books, you've taken the classes, you've done the seminars, you're sitting here today for crying out loud. But does it really work? If it really works, then why does my life kind of suck a little bit? So there are ways that you can begin to prove to yourself that this really does work. And one of the first things that I learned when I began doing this work is that I'm sure you're all familiar with the chakra system, and that the heart chakra has the color green. And it, of course, corresponding to the heart, represents love energy. So something that you can do that's actually really fun is to go to the mall or the grocery store, any place where there's a lot of mainstream people, and project green heart chakra, love energy, toward people that you see are just kind of, grouching around with a scowl on their face. The people who really kind of need it. You seek them out and you send it to them. And it's funny how often you will actually see a physical change in their body. They might smile. I was at the grocery store once, and you know how nasty people can get in the grocery store line when the cashier's taking too long and dealing with the coupons, and there's 15 people back there, tapping their watches. Well, I was in a line like that, and I decided, well, I'm going to do this with this cashier. And everybody in line was just hating on the poor girl, and the more you're being hated, the more flustered you get. So I sent her this energy, and I could see her visibly relaxing. She stopped making mistakes, and because she was projecting a different kind of energy, she didn't know she was doing this, but it's that was just sort of a domino effect. And because she was projecting a different kind of energy, the people who were in line began calming down a little bit. And that was the first time that I ever really had that aha, this stuff really does work. You can actually use this. Another example, I was in a meeting when I was still working at this job, and one of my coworkers was having chest pains, and she was a young woman, so we weren't really concerned that it was a heart attack or anything, but perhaps anxiety, whatever it was. She was having these chest pains, and she remarked on it a couple times during this meeting. I'm getting a little scared here. So I was sitting next to her, and I sent her this green, healing, loving light. Didn't say anything about it, didn't change anything about the way that I do things, but by the end of the meeting, she said, it's the weirdest thing, the chest pains are gone. So these are the little things that you can do to begin to allow yourself to believe that this really does work. This really is the way that we exist, and this is how we shapeshift, by simply changing the energy that we project from within. Have you ever noticed that when you're coming down with, say, a cold, for example, you start getting the sniffles? In fact, this afternoon I was kind of feeling a sore throat. Like, okay, no sore throat this afternoon, I need to speak. So what you do when you're starting to feel these symptoms is you start feeding the symptom. You start going, oh, there's the sniffles, I'm feeling kind of achy, it's kind of a fever. You feed the symptoms, and I'm sure everyone here has talked themselves into a cold or a headache. In fact, sometimes we do it because, no, I really don't want to go to work today. And you end up with a minor illness that keeps you from doing what you want to do. And what we can do, the flip side of that, when we begin the shape-shifting process, when we begin actually taking these baby steps and taking care of our bodies, those are the symptoms that you feed. When you start to notice a little change, for example, a week and a half ago, I started doing a morning regimen where I drink a tea made of organic lemon juice and raw honey. And it's a nice cleansing kind of thing. And I noticed a difference after a day or two. It's a subtle difference, but it was a difference. So I feed that symptom. I'm feeling just a little better. So I focus on that, feeling just a little better. And then the next day I feel a little better than that. And if the example is weight loss, if you're starting to see a little bit of weight loss, a little bit of definition for more exercise, stop thinking about what you want to be, compare yourself to what you used to be. Give yourself credit for what you've accomplished and start noticing the difference. Feed those symptoms. And it's a magical trick. It really does work. A lot of times, too, one of the reasons that we stay out of balance is because we're hanging on to old stories, old baggage, old issues. And we all know that in these changing times, as our bodies are evolving, as the energies are shifting, and the world is changing, we are almost forced at this point in time to deal with this stuff because it has to go or we don't evolve. And so a lot of these things we're discovering, we don't even really have to. It used to be you had to go to therapy for years and years to deal with all the crap. But now it seems that all you really have to do with many of these issues, not all, but many of these issues, simply notice that they're there. Have that aha moment that that's why I act like this, or that's why I react like this. Notice that it's there. And oftentimes it does just dissolve. It's nothing more than an obsolete energy pattern. And the analogy that I came up with for this is, we're all about in the same age range. I'm sure we've all seen the episode of Gilligan's Island where the Japanese soldier lands, or sailor lands on the island, doesn't know the war's over. Are you the Japanese sailor who doesn't know the war is over? It's time to quit fighting those battles, those old expired battles that just don't exist anymore, the ones that keep you stuck where you are. Do not doubt, believe. Don't even believe. Know who you are. Shape-shifting means standing in the body you wish to become, even if it doesn't look like it yet. Walk in that body. There is absolutely no doubt that this is the way it works. We are so on the cutting edge right now of human consciousness and what we can actually really do with our bodies. What the Bleep is a huge movie. The Secret, all of these movies are becoming mainstream because they speak truth. So you really do shapeshift in every moment, whether you're aware of it or not. The shape you're in right now, you shifted into. And you can shift into a healthier one. All right.
My name is Elizabeth Ann Hill, and on May 26, 2008, I had the opportunity to interview the universe. With my partner Glenna Dietrich, who's a talented trance medium, and myself as the interviewer, we got to have a unique conversation with a group of wise universal guides. Glenna and I came together by a seemingly random coincidence. A friend of mine, John Hodge, was putting together a website called Soul 411 in which he was going to promote psychics and mediums and metaphysical practitioners. And so John asked me if I would have some readings with some of his clients to see if they were who they said they were, and I agreed. John knew that I would be an excellent candidate for a reading because I had lost my entire family. My entire family was on the other side. My twin sister and I lost our mother in 1986 to cancer, and then in October 25th of 2002, my twin sister also died. She was a United States Border Patrol agent who was killed in the line of duty while patrolling the international border with Mexico. She lost control of her Jeep and she tumbled down a steep embankment, and she was killed instantly. I was completely devastated, but at the same time I knew almost instantly that she had a message for the world and I was the one to deliver it. I was able to continue to communicate with her, and she let me know that her role as a Border Patrol agent was very significant because the time frame that we're going into at this time is about the fading of boundaries and borders in the world, and even the fading of boundaries and borders between heaven and earth. And so she died on the exact location where the border fence is being argued over in Congress. And so she let me know that this book that we were writing was about letting go of the old ideas that no longer serve us and allowing new ideas to come in. And so we wrote this book together called Twin Souls, A Message of Hope for the New Millennium. And in the last 2 years, my father also died, so I had a lot of people who had died, and so John wanted me to do these readings. And he asked me to contact Glenna Dietrich, which I did, and I had just found out about her because I had interviewed the author of a book, Courageous Souls, on my radio show. Glenna was one of the 4 mediums who were featured in this book. And so I was very excited to meet her, and she did a counseling session with me. It was about 2 hours long, and at the end, she went into a trance. Her abilities to trance, she leaves her body, and so she's a complete open channel for spirit. It's kind of like Edgar Cayce. She falls asleep, she leaves her body, and spirit is able to speak through her. And so at the end of this channeling, she brought through a group of guides, and they spoke to me and they told me who they were. They were a group of interdimensional beings, and at the end they asked me if I wanted to ask questions, and I was caught off guard by that because I had seen trance channeling before. It was a miracle of this trance channeling, but I'd never been allowed to ask questions. And so I kind of asked a few, but then the reading was over. And so I kept thinking about how I'd always been fascinated about life's biggest questions, and if I just was given another chance, I could ask these questions that had plagued me and had always fascinated me. And so I contacted Glenna again, and I asked her, can we please do another reading? And she, even though that was something that she didn't normally do, she agreed. And so as I was preparing for this session, I was writing out my questions, and I was thinking about all these questions that I wanted to ask about the world and why are we here and all these things, and I heard a small voice in my head say, interview with the universe. And that stopped me in my tracks because I thought, I can interview the universe through Glenna. And so I brought the idea to her attention, and she loved it, and we did the channeling, and during the channeling, these group of guides and angels and ascended masters came through, and they said that they highly recommended that we do this, that they would work with me, they would answer my questions, and that it was an answered prayer for both of us because we had both been asking to serve the world in a very big way. And so when Glenna came out of her trance, she doesn't remember when she comes out what was said, so I explained it to her. She was very excited, and we began brainstorming on how we could make this happen. And so everything started falling into place. Her son Corey agreed to record the interview and to write a piece of music for the interview itself and play it on his guitar. But he explained that we couldn't do it over the phone. It would be too low of a low quality recording, and so I agreed to fly to Minneapolis. And so we did this. We set this action in motion, and everything was falling into place. And we had a lot of pre-interview sessions to prepare for this interview. And we asked them different questions about it, and they explained that I would be channeling as well, that I would be receiving help with the questions that I was going to ask, and that during the interview I would be receiving help on the questions, and that I needed to be open to that. And when Glenna asked what she was supposed to do to prepare for this interview, they told her just to show up. The information that we received in this 3-day recording session was very profound and very relevant to what's happening in the world today. And in addition to that, they explained that the information was encoded as well with high vibrational information. So when people listen to it, they're receiving a message on many levels. And this isn't a subliminal type of thing. It's just a raising of consciousness. And when people listen to this 3 CD set that we recorded, they feel healed, they feel shifting. And so Some of the highlights of what they told us: we do come to Earth, as many of us know, to experience challenges and difficulties and emotions that are not available anywhere else in this galaxy or in this universe. And so it's actually a great victory to come into the dense realm of the Earth, which is extraordinarily dense, low vibrations, and to overcome any one limitation that we had from the past. And so they said, this is our reason for coming here. Our soul wants that experience. And what is important at this time, we used to have to know that we have come here for a purpose and that we have a purpose, but now we're being given an expanded awareness to understand that yes, we plan our challenges, yes, we plan our purposes. However, there's infinite number of possibilities on what we can choose. And it's important to understand that there's no one path, there's no one, well, I'm going to find my purpose. That is not really the truth. We have so many choices that we can make, and the purpose of life is to make a choice. It doesn't matter what choice. It's simply to make a choice and to make the choice that we want to make, and then the universe will support us. And it doesn't, if we choose something that makes us unhappy, it doesn't mean we made the wrong choice. It simply means these are the consequences of these choices, and we simply can make another choice if we don't like the choice that we've made. So they said this is very important to understand. They also said at this time that loving ourselves is probably the most important thing that we can do. And we've heard this a lot. Louise Hay has said it for years, but this is very important because in the past age, the age of Pisces that we just completed, the lesson to be learned at that time was sacrifice and suffering for salvation, and this is no longer the case. At this time, we are about community, equality, belonging, and if you don't love yourself, you cannot be an equal partner with anything or anyone. And so this is highly important. They said the biggest mistake that human beings make is judgment. I've asked this question in many different ways, but what we're doing in this next 4-year period between now and the year 2012 is we're releasing polarities, and judgment is a polarity. And so we need to release the judgments about things, and that will help us to shift. We're going through an evolutionary leap. Everything that exists is doing this, they explain. And so we want it, when we move from the 3rd dimension through the 4th dimension into the 5th dimension, we will be dropping these polarities. And so judgment, it is in our best interest to focus on ourselves and to drop judgment about other people's choices. There were many examples they gave me of this throughout the interview, particularly about our environment. They said there is a warming, it's happening because of this influx of energy, and so we need to release the judgment about that. We need to release the judgment about other people who are playing rigid roles, people who are causing problems. They are playing these roles out of love, so the rest of us can raise. It is in our best interest to let go of these things and to focus on our vibrations. And so there's many things taking place that we have been judging, that we focus on our own consciousness. That is our only job on this planet. Focus on our own consciousness, focus on the inner child. The inner child is the most powerful force in the universe, and the heart center. That part of us that is in wonder and awe and open to other alternative belief systems, is not judgmental, is not jaded. That is the inner child, and that's what we want to focus on. When we do this, we make this evolutionary leap, the peace and the joy that we've been seeking for centuries will be with us at that time.
The focus of my spiritual work is to help to empower people as we move into the higher consciousness of the age of Aquarius, which everybody's talking about, this higher energy that's moving in. More and more people are having psychic experiences, intuitive experiences, hunches, synchronicities, and even spirit communication that they may or may not understand, and may or may not understand what they can do with these experiences and how they can hone their intuitive abilities. And so that's really what I'm focused on, is helping people to understand what's happening as we move into these higher energies, the higher consciousness of the age of Aquarius, and how we can develop our intuition and access the guidance that comes along with it. Why should we care about developing our intuitive abilities? Well, we can use that intuition in so many ways. If you trust your vibes, if you trust your hunch, if you meet someone and you have a feeling about that person, good or bad, yeah, I can trust this person, or something just doesn't feel right, and you learn to trust yourself and trust that intuition, I really think it can guide you, and you'll make, you, I, all of us, will make far fewer errors in judgment, or I hate to think of them as errors. If we learn from experiences, nothing's really an error. But I think we'll move through our life in a much more sure-footed way, and can have a happier, more fulfilled life if we trust the guidance and the intuition that's being given to us constantly. And I think it's coming at us from all sorts of directions, some of which we're going to talk about today. And before you leave this room, you'll have an opportunity, if you choose to avail yourself of it, to start getting an idea of where your intuitive strengths may lie. So if you choose to develop your psychic ability, you'll have an idea of what your strengths are. Okay. So one thing we can do is spend time in prayer and meditation. I think that's really important. I'm not espousing any particular spiritual view. I honor everyone's path. But what I do think is really important is for us to spend time in appreciation. I think before you get out of bed, you should spend some time in appreciation. Nobody's life is perfect. We've all got things that we would like to have happening in a different way, or happening faster, or changed, or whatever. But no matter what's going on, we all have so many things to be grateful for. And if we focus on what we have rather than what we don't have, if we focus on how lucky we are and how connected to spirit we are, it really helps to strengthen our consciousness of that connection. Helps to strengthen our consciousness of our connection to spirit. And I think that that really helps to empower us to do this work. Psychic work works because we're all connected. The reason, the way I can read for you is that I am you. I mean, in a very real way, we are one another. We are connected with one another. Duality is an illusion. It's an illusion that's melting away, again, as we move into this higher consciousness. And so spending time in prayer and meditation helps to strengthen our consciousness of our connection to the universe and our consciousness of our connection with one another. And it's from that place, it's from that understanding of our connectedness that we do psychic work. That's how it happens. That's what it's all about. So spending time in prayer, spending time in appreciation, I think is really important. And I think of prayer and meditation as two sides of a coin. When I'm praying, I'm doing the talking. And when I'm meditating, the universe is doing the talking, and I'm listening. That works for me. I like to start with a prayer and then spend time just listening. Now, when you say meditation, a lot of people get an image that you need a special mat, you need a guru, you need an outfit, you need a mantra, and you don't need any of that stuff. You don't need to spend money, you don't need to get a catalog and buy things, you don't need any of that. You don't need special training, you don't need to take a class. All you need to do is stop. Just stop. Stop and listen. Because, again, the universe is inspiring us constantly. We're getting the information, we're getting the guidance. All we have to do is stop and listen to it, and it's there for us. So what I suggest is that you take a couple of deep breaths, you relax yourself, look into a candle flame, look into a glass of water, and just sort of relax your mind. Yes, thoughts are going to intrude. You're going to hear the cat knock something over. If you're in my house, you're going to hear a cat knocking something over for sure. You're going to hear those distractions wherever you are, whatever's going on. That's fine. Or a thought's going to flit through your mind. That's okay. Just let it go. Recognize that, yes, I had a thought. Yes, that's okay. Let it go. Just listen. For me, if I just sit and listen, I get my guidance. I think prayer and meditation are really important. Also, start paying attention to what's going on around you. You know, we so often are not present in our lives. When you read for someone, you have to be present for that person. You have to be present to them so that you can feel their energy and understand what's going on and feel what's happening with them. So if you start paying attention to your own life, it's really a good thing to help you start to develop that psychic awareness. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, pay attention to synchronicities or meaningful coincidences. I use that term, although I don't believe in coincidence, but it's a handy term. Pay attention to things that are happening. For example, you're in the supermarket and you hear a song on the intercom, the loudspeaker, and then you get into an elevator, you hear that same song. And then you get into your car, turn the radio on, and that same song is on. We've all had these experiences where you hear the same thing. It means something. If it keeps happening, it means something. It has a meaning for you. The meaning could be the name of the song. It might be as simple as that, sail away. You keep hearing the song, sail away. Maybe you need a vacation. You need to sail away for a while. Or maybe it's the feeling that it evokes. That song has a particular meaning to you. And when you hear it, it means something. It brings up a memory, or it means something to you. If that's the case, what is that memory? What is it saying to you? Start paying attention to these so-called coincidences, because they're not coincidences. They're messages. They're messages from Spirit. And we can start accessing our guidance by paying attention to what's going on around us. And our dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. When we're dreaming, we're not filtering. You know, in our conscious mind, we're filtering things that happen. Everything that happens is happening through our personal filter. When you're dreaming, you're not filtering anything. So if you see grandma, you see grandma, even though she's been dead for 10 years. You don't question it, you just say, wow, it's great to see you. If she has a message for you, you sit down, have a cup of tea, and she gives you her message. You're not saying, well, this can't be happening. So dreams are really important ways for Spirit to communicate with us and to give us guidance, because we're not filtering. We're not saying that's ridiculous, that can't happen. We just accept what's happening. Now, we often dream in metaphors. So you may dream, I actually dreamt about someone who was in a glass house and was throwing stones once. I mean, that was pretty clear what I was dreaming about. There was an issue with a person. But we're all getting messages in our dreams. So when you wake up, the two things I like to do when I'm trying to understand what a dream is about is look for the metaphors and what was the feeling of that dream. I mean, what was the bottom line? I was feeling hemmed in. Pay attention to your dreams because they're telling you something. They're talking to all of us. Again, that kind of connectedness, cultivating that connection, helps us to develop our psychic abilities. And when you're dreaming, watch for patterns. And in synchronicities, watch for patterns. Keep dreaming about the number 9. And then you join a class, and guess what? There are 8 other people in the class. You're number 9. Well, if this dream that you're having that keeps incorporating the number 9 is really positive and feels good, then I would say this is going to be a great class. You're really going to learn a lot. Start paying attention to those patterns and synchronicities. Pay attention to what's happening in your life. One thing you can do to start, one thing I like to do to get a feeling for what your strengths are, you can start using the right side of your brain, which is the intuitive side, as opposed to the left side, which is the logical side, which is the side that we often make decisions with. And that's fine. We need to use it. We need both sides. But I think we often use one to the detriment of the other. Start exercising the right side of your brain. And what do I mean by that? Well, imagine. Spend time imagining. Look at the people in the room and make up a story about this lady or this lady. I find that that's a lot of fun to do, and it exercises that muscle. It exercises your imagination muscle, and you use that side of your brain, the intuitive side of your brain, when you're giving a reading for yourself or someone else. So it's a great place to start. It's a great muscle to start using. You can look in a magazine at a photograph. You look at a photograph of, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower. Well, start imagining yourself at the Eiffel Tower, and what would it be like? And what do you see when you climb up to the top of the Eiffel Tower? And it still won't work if you've already been there. It only works if you have to imagine it. If you've already been there, then picture something else. You know, and imagine what's happening in that picture. You have a picture of a lake in a magazine. Well, put yourself in the lake and just spend time imagining, daydreaming. Daydreaming is really key to psychic development because it starts using that right side of your brain that you use in psychic work. Here's an exercise that I love to do, and this kind of pinpoints some of your particular strengths. You can cut out pictures from a magazine, from whatever, have a friend do it. Put them into envelopes, and then see if you can feel what the picture is. I have a whole stack of these things. And we'll do this with friends. I get together with friends. We do these psychic swaps where we play games and we do exercises. They're really fun. And one thing that we like to do is take pictures that are in envelopes, hold them in your hands, and just feel what you feel, what comes through. And just guess, just put it out there, even if it sounds crazy. Just say it, and you'd be amazed at what you're going to hit on. You might be really good at picking up colors. You might be really good at picking up the shape. Sometimes people get the shape. Sometimes they get the emotion. One of my favorites was a picture of a wedding. And when one lady was holding this picture, what she was getting was she had a feeling of fun. She said, this really has a feeling of fun. And it was an outdoor wedding with flowers and everybody was smiling. So she didn't get the flowers, she didn't get the outdoors, she didn't get any of that. So she could have said, oh, it was a failure. It was not a failure. What she was getting was the emotion. She's in tune with the emotion of something. That's her strength. Somebody else might be form. Somebody else might be something else. So that's a good place to start. Since our time is so short, what I would like to do is offer you a short meditation just to get relaxed. Just to relax your brain a little bit. And then I'd like to offer you the opportunity to start getting a feeling for what your intuitive strengths are. So an experiment. So if you'd like to try it, I invite you to uncross whatever may be crossed, arms or legs. And I'm going to talk to you in my pussycat voice so that you can relax. Uncross, relax your shoulders. Take a couple of deep breaths. Just breathe in peace and breathe out stress. Relax your shoulders. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. And I invite you to imagine, if you will, that you're walking through a forest. The forest it's a beautiful day. You're walking through the forest on a beautiful day. And you can feel under your feet the soft pine needles. You can smell the pine as you move deeper into the forest. You can hear the birds singing deep in the forest. And if you look up above your head, you see the treetops way, way up above your head and the dappled light beyond. You can see the leaves just ruffling in the breeze. And it's completely peaceful. This is a beautiful, tranquil place to be. You just stroll through the forest. And then you come to a pool, a blue pool of water. in the forest. And it's so inviting, so warm, that you slip into the pool and you float. It feels completely effortless, peaceful. Your body feels light, relaxed, refreshed. And as you're floating in this pool, you look up at the treetops, and the breeze just parts the leaves. This beautiful, warm, loving light shines down through the treetops and bathes you. And you feel refreshed, relaxed, completely at peace, and completely protected. And from this place of peace and protection, you're ready to do psychic work. So I invite you to come back into this room when you're ready for an experiment. Doesn't that feel nice? And a 2-minute meditation feels great. Now, I'm going to prove to you that these energies I'm talking about are not just nice ideas, but they're real things. If you would hold your hands together like this, you can feel your own energy. You may have to hold it a little bit closer. Just relax yourself. Relax until you feel it. Do you feel it? Feel it? Everybody's energy is different. You can also feel it over your head. You can feel it over other people's heads. This is a fun thing to do with your friends. If you do this with your friends, you'll see that everybody's energy is different. Some feel kind of spiky, some are just warm waves, some are sort of electrical, some are staticky. We're all different, but it's all the same things. The energy coming out of our body, you can actually feel it. It's real. If you would like to, I invite you to take someone else's hand and see what, preferably someone you don't know, not the person you came in with, and see what you can feel or intuit about that person. And don't edit. Don't use that left brain saying, well, that's ridiculous. Just go with whatever comes to you, whatever you feel, whatever you intuit about the person. If you'd like to try it, give it a shot. Would anybody like to share anything that they got? Yeah, you're feeling the energy. It's real. These aren't just nice ideas. They're real things. Yeah. That's
like an aura.
You can feel the color. That's really cool.
Do you know what powdery blue means?
Well, blue is a high spiritual color. It goes through the colors. If you go through the colors of the rainbow, you know, the higher frequency colors are the blues and purples. So that's a high frequency color. That's a spiritual color. Yes?
During the meditation when I was looking at you, I could see yellow.
That's because I'm thinking right now. Yellow is an intellectual color, so if you're thinking about something, then you might very well, or you're learning something or teaching something, you might very well see yellow. But the fact you can see colors is really great. That's another thing you can practice, is seeing colors around people. That's really great. So think about what you got. If you heard a name, if just a name popped into your head, Arthur pops into your head, you may be clairaudient. You hear it. If you saw something in your mind, you saw a nurse's uniform, then that's clairvoyance, that's clear seeing. That may be your intuitive strength, that you can see images and start working on that, start developing that. And if suddenly you just knew something, I just know that this person bakes. They don't smell like cookies, but I know they bake. I just know it. then you're clairsentient, which means that it's clear knowing. You just know things. Things just, concepts come to you. So that kind of thing helps you to develop pinpoint your strengths. You can do the same thing with the pictures. Have a friend put some pictures into envelopes, just plain old envelopes, and see if you hold them, what you get. Again, that'll start to help you pinpoint what your strengths are. And you can develop that. Yeah, also, you can get a box and have someone put something in the box and try to guess what it is. My husband used to put something in a box for me every morning before he left for work. And whatever it might be, and I'd try to guess what was in the box. Is it a stapler? Is it a balloon? Is it, whatever. And I would see what I'm getting. Am I picking up colors? Am I picking up the shape of it? Am I getting the emotion of it, the feeling of it? Am I getting playful? And it's a toy. That kind of thing. That helps you to pinpoint your strengths, and it helps you to focus on your strengths as you're developing your psychic abilities. And there's several other things that you can try. These are things you can try that don't cost money, that you can start working with and start developing your psychic ability. Good starting points. Of course, there are tons of books. There's plenty more you can do to learn more about it. I want to thank you. You're all great. Thank you so much for participating.